Good evening. So today we'll be discussing on wireframe. We have discussed all the necessary research methods that needs to be done before we proceed with the wireframe. So I hope you guys have worked on information architecture, and based on the user flow items that is involved in the user flow, we will be working on the wireframe. So here, uh, what are the goals that we can achieve by doing the wireframe is that we will try to understand the meaning of it. Why do we need to do wireframe before we proceed with the high fidelity mockups, before we proceed with the UI, and we'll also learn the best practices and techniques to create your own wireframe, and we'll practice creating low fidelity wireframes, that is rough sketches, and then establish a workflow for iteration, like the revisions of the improved wireframe, and then we'll try connecting wireframes to previous UX research, that is whatever research that we have done till now. How can we make use of those research methods in order to create your own wireframe, right? So first, if we are trying to design something, everything should begin with a wireframe. After the research part comes the wireframe. That is, there are different types of wireframes that we will be discussing in the upcoming slides. So why do we need a wireframe? Is because it's like a basic or core fundamental skeleton or the blueprint of an app that we will be designing, or in website that we will be designing. So in that, we need to understand how the structure will be, or what are the functionalities that will be involved in that. So that is the major purpose of a wireframe. So what are wireframes? It's like a low fidelity representation, or how it will actually be in the digital interface. How will the screen be? It is the initial ideation phase of the UX UI design process. It focuses on the layout, structure, and functionality. Like we discussed, in that the layout can be different. So for wireframes, we'll be experimenting with 3-4 variations of a single page itself, like a single screen itself. For the home page, we'll have different variations in order to identify which matches the best, which uh, which version satisfies the client or the user. You know, to do that, we'll be trying experimenting with the 3-4 variations of each and every screen. Home page la we'll have to focus on 3 variations, and then எது வந்து யூசரோட நீட்ஸை மீட் பண்ணுது, and the structure will also be different in each of the wireframe that we are doing, and the functionality, what other kind of features can we introduce. ஒரு variationலையும் there will be different features involved based on the user needs that we have identified in the previous research. And then there is also the blueprint for interface before we begin with the visual design. So that this is going to be the actual concept or the idea that we will be proceeding further with the visual design. So wireframes aren't just about the structure. uh, it's not just about the style or the colors or the typography. It's about actually the structure and the layout, and also the functionality. So how is the home page going to be? How is the profile page going to be? What layout are we going to proceed with? But there will be some differences when we proceed with the UI. But in the initial conceptualization stage, for the first draft, we'll begin with the wireframes. What are the advantages of using wireframe? You could have seen some of the case studies in Behance or other websites, portfolio websites. You could have seen they would have not used wireframes directly. They would have moved with the high fidelity mockups, but it's not advisable to do that, because wireframes are the initial stages where we'll be conceptualizing the concept, brainstorming different solutions for identifying the user problems. So first, there are even separate roles, like there is a UX designer and a UI designer when it comes to a design studio or design agency. So you need to understand the importance of having a wireframe and then proceeding with the UI design. So here comes what are the merits of having a wireframe. First, we need to be clear in the structure. Like wireframes helps us to define the layout and the structure of the screen. We can first freely uh, design the screen without having to think upon what color to use, what font to use, or what are the images that needs to come. So we can freely ideate just on the functionality and the structure of the screen. So this also helps clients to understand the placement of elements. So the clients or the users may also be they can also easily understand how the elements are going to be placed, where the CTA button is going to be placed, where the profile icon will be, and what are the things that will be coming in that bottom navigation bar. And we can also easily come up with a user flow in the early stage of the process itself. And it also helps us to iterate quickly, like we can come up with a different whole lot of variations, as I mentioned. Like we can try exploring different ideas rapidly. There can be quick ideation stage happening, and also it is quick to create, because we are not involving the colors, fonts, or the images. So it's going to be easy, and it's going to take only it's going to consume only little time. So we can quickly ideate and iterate on different variations of the same screen. And we can also get sign off from the client as soon as we present all the variations of a single screen. And we can also understand what are their expectations on, and how can we meet their expectations. So if we are presenting 2-3 variations to the client of the same home page, we'll have an idea what the client is looking for, whether a hybrid, like a mix and match of both the variations, or he wants some features to be incorporated from the second variation, and then what are the other functionalities of the features he is expecting for, you know so that's how we can iterate it quickly. And we can also improve the communication between the designers, developers, product managers, and clients. So here, once we are done with the wireframes, we can quickly hand it off to the UI designers, wherein they can fix in the colors, typography, and improvised layout, or the other things that is involved in the UI design. And also wireframes will help to communicate between the developers, or we can also give the knowledge transfer to the developers, like how the animation is going to come, or how we can proceed with the CMS, content management system. And we can even directly communicate with the clients about how this wireframe is going to work. And it can also uh, help us ensure that everyone is aligned on the functionality, like what are the features that is going to come before we proceed with the visual design. So wireframe on the whole, it focuses on the user's experience. Like before we begin with the visual design, wireframes will help us focus on the how the user is going to interact with the product, how is it going to be usable by the users, and how is the information architecture going to be arranged, like from which screen which has to go. So a solid foundation of the user flow, the information architecture, what are the screens going to be involved, an estimation of the overall screens in this particular application will be decided in the UX phase only. And then you get it right. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So during this phase, we'll completely focus on the user's experience by not getting distracted from the other elements apart from UX design. So in this early usability testing stage, we can also get it tested with the users, like we can get the early feedback from the users based on the structure that we are giving, and also we can focus on the flow before we begin with the development. So this gives us an efficient development handoff, like the developers can make use of the wireframes that we are creating, so that they can understand the logic behind it, and also they can understand the flow of the user interface. So there could be a smooth transition from the high fidelity design, and the development will also be smoother. So how will the wireframe process be? In that, the first one is to understand the client requirements. First, we will get the project scope from the client, or if it's a mock case study that we are trying to do, then we'll gather the information of that particular subject that we are doing, about the users, the target users that we've already learned in the UX research phase, and also the business goals that we are trying to meet. And then we'll analyze the user personas, user flows, and use cases, how during which stage this app will be useful for the users, and the edge cases, who are the other users who will be looking forward to use this application. This is the first phase, and then we'll define the user flow, wherein in the user flow we'll have to map out the steps which the user takes. We have already seen a separate topic on user flow, wherein the users will take specific tasks to achieve how the user can buy the particular product. That is a user flow example. This helps us in identifying the key screens, what are the important screens that are needed for wireframing. So we'll have an idea of what are the screens that needs to be designed, and then we'll proceed with the basic layout. In the basic layout, we'll begin with the paper sketches and or digital tools. Paper sketches, it can be rough sketch using paper pencil. So just to ideate, in the ideation stage, we can directly we can directly sketch it out, the ideas that we have in our mind. We can use the paper and then sketch out our ideas, like for the same home page we can create 2-3 variations and then see. Because if you are directly starting with Figma or other digital tools, then you cannot freely put your thoughts in the digital interface, right? So that is why it is advisable to do a paper sketch. In the paper sketch, you can focus on the layout, the structure that needs to be incorporated, and the placement of elements such as headers, buttons, and the content blocks. Here, and then after we do the paper sketch, we can proceed with the digital wireframes. For that, we can use the tools that are familiar to us, like we can make use of Figma, Adobe Sketch, Adobe XD or Sketch. But why are we trying with Figma now is because it is the popular tool which all the companies expect, and Sketch is bit outdated, and they don't want the people who know only Sketch or XD. And we can add grid systems, alignments. So these things actually come in the UI phase, But even uh, to make your UX wireframe more solid and more weight, you can add the grid systems, and you can also follow the alignments that we'll be learning in depth during the UI phase. So the alignments and spacing, grid systems we'll be discussing more in depth in the second case study. For the first case study, we are only going to focus on the UX part, and on the second case study, we will be focusing highly in the UI design, so that we can if we are trying to apply for a job, we can even become a product designer or UX UI designer who does both of the jobs. So keep them monochromatic to avoid visual distraction. So when we are creating a wireframe, we need to follow the similar kind of colors instead of having too many visual colors. So it's just going to be black, gray, and white, and the shades of gray. Only using those colors we will be designing the wireframe. After we are done with the wireframe, we need to get it done with the review from the users or the clients or even the team members. Like you have a set of designers with you, then you can even get a review from them. Once you get the review, you can implement those feedbacks in your design and improvise that version. So usually how the design process in the wireframing stage will be is, first you will be designing 2-3 variations of the same screen, which is there in the scope given to you for the scope of work given to you for the particular project. Once you are done with that, you get a review from the stakeholders, team members, or even the users. After getting the review, try to incorporate that review in your wireframe. So even after that, you can present it to those team members or stakeholders, and then you can revise that version. After they are satisfied with your version, it means that you have got the sign off from those members. It can be anyone, like it can be a client, it can be a team member or user. So they have to approve your design, and then after it gets sign off from them, you can proceed with the UI design. So for this, what you have to do is, first you need to organize your Figma file. First page வந்து first page should be cover page, like the project cover image. And in the second page, you need to create in the second page you need to create the wireframe, whatever you have designed. And in the third page, you can have the client approved screens. So that is how it's actually going to be. And optionally, you can add the interactivity, like the wireframes can be clickable. If the user clicks on submit, then what happens? What screen has to come? There should be a success pop up coming up. Um, so you can prototype it, like from homepage, what screen has to be coming. So based on the information architecture that we have done, you can do the prototyping as well if it's required. If the user wants to understand it in depth, you can do that. And this can be useful when it comes to testing the user flows. You want the user to understand how it works, then it will be helpful for them. And after that, we can finalize and move to the high fidelity design. Like once the wireframes are done, we can proceed with the UI design, like the foundation of UI design. We can set the typography, the style guide. It includes the colors, and then the button, what type of buttons are we going to use, the components. So these things will follow up after we get a sign off from the in the wireframes. So there are different types of wireframes. Just give me a minute. So there are three types of wireframes. In that, the first one is low fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity wireframes are going to be hand drawn sketches or the basic digital shapes. So we can just quickly do a wireframe using a paper pen, like I mentioned before. We can make use of the placeholder text, that is like simple boxes for images instead of having the real image. You can't have a real image obviously in your paper pen sketch, so it's just going to be a rectangle box. And then for text you can use lorem ipsum, that is the dummy text, or if it's just going to be paper pen sketch, then you can just put a line indicating that is going to be a text. And then here we are just going to focus only on the layout rather than having key details involved. And the purpose of creating the paper pen sketch is to brainstorm layout ideas, like what are the other layout options that we can have for the home screen itself or for the product details screen itself. How can we present the product details screen in another way? For that, we can make use of this paper pen sketch. So we can quickly ideate different types of layout options, and then we can also get early feedback from the users or the stakeholders or even your design team members. So what are the tools involved here? It could just involve paper pen, or you could even use whiteboard, like whiteboard and marker. You can make use of that, or you can even use the tools like whimsical or basmic. I think it will be paid. And then there is the other type of wireframe, that is mid fidelity wireframe, wherein it is bit more polished, and there will be only grayscale wireframes. So in that we'll be using Figma or Adobe Sketch, XD or Sketch. In that we'll have to work on the neutral colors, that will be black shade, gray, and then one more shade higher, gray. So with the help of these colors we'll be creating the wireframe. In that, the structure will be bit more clearer than the low fidelity wireframe, and also we'll try to integrate what are the elements that will be coming in the navigation, what are the items that will be coming in the navigation. And we'll also try to resemble the actual layout of the product, like how it's going to be in the UI. Like, it's not going to be exactly similar, rather it will be somewhat resembling the actual layout of the product. So we could also include simple labels instead of having lorem ipsum text, like what this actually means. If we are having the product detail page, in that if for example we are designing for a grocery search list on searching for a particular vegetable, okay. So if you are searching for a particular vegetable, then the search list gives you results based on that. So for that, you can include the actual name of that product itself rather than including the placeholder text, so that it will give an idea for the UI designer when it comes to the UI phase, so what it actually means, so they'll not be blank. And it could also include limited interactivity, like click through prototypes. So if the user is clicking on the home tab, then what happens? If the user clicks on the settings tab, what happens? You can just prototype it from one screen to another screen, how it will actually be. Why are we doing the mid-fidelity wireframes? We are doing that in order to communicate the layout with the clients. How will the layout be? So we'll also be validating the information hierarchy and the navigation patterns, like how are we going to organize the information, and we are preparing ourselves for the usability testing that needs to be done with the users. So if it's user friendly or not, we need to determine it, right? So for that we are preparing with the mid fidelity wireframes. We are continuing to the high fidelity wireframes, in which we will be precisely using the actual buttons, input fields, or the icons. So it has to be the real content, and it should be fully interactive. Like this is the UI phase, this is involved in the UI phase. In that, if the user comes and hover on a particular button, then how should the hover state be, what transition should come, and it may also include the annotations explaining functionality or behaviors. Like there should be an info icon, in that if the user hovers on, it should show what is the use of this button near the info icon. So in the info icon itself, it should explain the purpose of having that. uh, if the user is not able to find out what it is, then they should provide an info icon so that the user will understand the purpose behind using that. Okay, so this is actually going to be like an actual real app screen before we hand over to the developer. So its purpose is to let the developers understand how this actually works, how this app actually works, what colors are we going to use. It's going to be the actual colors in the app itself, so you can use the Figma app in your mobile and test it with the actual wireframe that you have done, so that you will have an understanding of how it will appear for the users. Stakeholder approval for final functionality. So also the client has to approve for the final functionality or the features that we have incorporated. If there are any changes, again the clients will ask for the revision of the other version. Like first you need to send one draft to the client. If he is not approving it and he requests for other changes, you have to work on the changes, and then again you need to submit it to the client for approval. If he again requests for changes, then you have to work on the changes again. So why are we doing high fidelity wireframes? Because we need to get a detailed usability testing. We'll also test it with the users in order to understand if it's user friendly or if it's a complicated process for them to digest. Based on the feedback that we are receiving from the users, we'll also have to work on the improvised version. So how we can do this is by using the different tools, like we can use Figma with prototyping feature, like we can prototype it in Figma itself, or there are even smart animate, different animation options as well in Figma, or we can use Adobe XD or Azure. These are the low to mid to high fidelity wireframes. So in the low fidelity wireframes, it's just going to be paper pen sketch. This is going to be the first liner and the second liner. So just for the text we are using this, instead of thinking highly on what text it is going to be. And for the images we are just going to use the rectangle, this kind of block boxes. For logo, depending on the variation of the sizes, we will be using that. And this is going to be a CTA button. So for CTA button, we are not going to use the cross, because it is not going to be an image. Only for the images we will be using the cross. It's going to be CTA, so it's going to be identifiable by the users or for us itself. When we are trying to explain it to other designer, they want to understand it, what is right. So for that we are just adding it as CTA, and then this is going to be an action. So we are having an action. This is going to be mid-fidelity wireframe, wherein there will be bit more detailed. Like the first one is going to be logo, if the logo is not yet designed, and instead of having this type of block, we can even have the image, actual image itself, but in grayed tone. Okay, it should be grayed out. The wireframe, mid fidelity wireframe, should not have any colors involved. It should be only black, gray tones and white. And here we can either use lorem ipsum, or we can also use the actual text. And for the CTA, if we are sure about what CTA it is going to be, so since we are already having some information, like the information architecture and the user flow is already prepared, so we have a basic understanding of what screen has to come after this. So instead of having just CTA, we can even add the real name itself and what action is going to take. And this is going to be the complete UI wireframe. Like it's not actual wireframe, but it is the UI mockup screen. So what are the colors? If it is going to be gradient, then we need to use the gradient color. And the actual logo, we need to ask from the illustration team if they are doing the logo, ask them and then place it. So if you are going to be the UI UX designer who will have to focus on the logo as well, then we need to do the logo and then place it over here. And the image of what image has to be placed in the onboarding screen, that should be placed in this area. And what text has to be, the UX copy should also be done by the UX designer if there is no UX writer in your company. So it's better to master all the skills together, so that you have an you also improve your skills. So you need not be dependent on the UX writer, because you are not sure if there will be a UX writer in your company or not, right? So if there is no UX writer, then you are responsible to do that job as well. So it's better that we practice now itself, and what CD has to come, and what is the primary color of the app, that needs to be decided over here. And this is the primary button and this is the secondary button. In one screen there can be only one primary and one secondary, one tertiary button if it's really required. So this is going to be the basic structure. So now let's explore what are the wireframing tools that we can make use of. So analog wireframing tools, these are kind of physical tools that will help us to quickly sketch out the ideas that we have without using a laptop. One is paper and pencil, that we've discussed recently. Like it's best when it comes to quicker ideation, we want to put our ideas into paper. For that we can use paper pencil, and then we can also brainstorm it with other designer or the team, so that they can also give their inputs. We can together ideate and create one different variation which the user will like, based on the user research which we have done. The advantages here is we can get an immediate expression of ideas. Once we get an idea, we can just put it over paper. And there is no learning curve. Like we need not just yes, actually there is learning curve. You can learn and improve it by getting the feedback from the designers who are there in your team. Like if you are going to in person in office, you'll have a set of designers involved. So during that time you can just do paper pen sketch and then share it. You can just discuss it with them and create one more variation. What are the disadvantages over here is that you can't share it remotely. You are working from home and then you want to share that wireframe to someone who is working remotely in another location, then it will be hard for you to share each and every wireframe that you have done it in paper pen, and it might not be easy for you to revise or improve one screen. You need to again draw each and every element in that screen and then add one more uh, functionality to over it, so it becomes complex, right? So these are the advantages and disadvantages, along with when do we need to use paper pencil sketch wireframe or sketch. And then it comes whiteboarding. Whiteboarding is best for collaborative planning during team meetings or design workshops. During there will be design workshops, like uh, we'll have to discuss uh, what are the elements that needs to be coming in the home page. Like we are trying to design the landing page for a SaaS website, okay, software as a solution. For that we need to ideate and work on the landing screen. For a SaaS website, there could be a lot of things involved. Like sometimes we will have to see for the sign up options for the users uh, to convert them into customers. They'll have to sign up or book a demo that will come in the home first fold of the home page, and then in the second fold we'll have to focus on the features sometimes. So what are the features that we'll be focusing on, and about the team. So before about the team, what has to come, like uh, if there are any particular things involved in a SaaS website. So what else will be involved? Are there any other integrations that is there in the SaaS website? So do we need to focus those integrations? So we need to brainstorm those things as well, right? So how can we do that? If we have a designer involved in our team, then we can make use of the whiteboard and marker. During that time we can sketch, first list down the items that will be needed in the wireframe, write down the functionalities, and after doing that we can prioritize what are the important things that needs to be shown to the user, that will be priority for the users to see in the landing page. Based on the priority, try to organize the information by fold. The first fold is going to be the hero section, that is the main landing. Once the user lands on the first top of the screen, what comes, that is the hero section. After that he scrolls down, bit down, in that comes the second fold. So whatever he wishes to see in each of the folds have to be discussed as a team and then designed. How can we do that? Is by doing the whiteboarding. So what are the advantages over this is there can be a big canvas wherein a group can discuss what are the advantages, like what are the things that needs to be added in the wireframe. And there can also be the iteration, like we can quickly revise the variation, and we can also try to again create another revision of the same wireframe. That is easy when it comes to whiteboarding. On the other hand, there are some disadvantages, like it is not permanent, it's not going to be saved somewhere, and it requires photo documentation. First we need to click a photo of the uh, wireframe that we have done in the whiteboard, so that it will be proof uh, if we want to incorporate in our case study. So even in your case study you can have a photo documentation of whiteboard wireframe if you have an access to whiteboard. And post it notes. So it can be like actually the sticky notes, you can organize the flows, ideas and screen elements. You can just write down what the flows in each of the sticky notes, so it will be easy for you to organize the flows and ideas. But this is not more prominently done by the UX designers. This is just a secondary way of doing the wireframe. There can be the screen elements, like you can just write down the screen elements, whatever needs to be coming in each of the screens. It can be easily moved in and around, like to test the layout, what comes after what, and which flow has to come first. So there could be even advantages like these, and the disadvantage is that we could not find out the detailed layout, or what are the actual CTS that needs to be coming, what are the images that needs to be involved. So it's not advised to follow post test notes, but just to have a basic understanding of what it means, I'm explaining it. And then there comes digital wireframing tools, like these are more structured, and it's going to be a bit more professional when it comes to sharing the wireframes. One you can use is Figma, that is more uh, important, and which the companies and recruiters are actually preferring for. Why? When do we actually use Figma? To collaborate and work in the wireframes, and for UI design we can make use of Figma. So you can collaborate with the other designers, and you can also include the advanced prototyping, or create components, variants. For, uh, for those purpose you can make use of Figma. What are the advantages of using Figma? Is that it is cloud based, and there is a real time collaboration. You can even talk and then work on the design. Like you can just interact with other designer who is working on the same file. So you can have an ideation or brainstorming process in the Figma file itself. There is a call option in Figma, and there is interactive prototyping with auto animate features, or the other dev features are also incorporated in Figma itself, so developers can also uh, get more advantages when the designer is using Figma. But there are also disadvantages, like it requires internet connection for all the features. And then there comes Sketch is best only if the designers are focusing on Mac, or they're designing in Mac. So if so, then doing the detailed UI and wireframing work, it will be helpful for them. There are advantages, like there are a lot of plugins involved, but plugins are also present in Figma, and there are powerful design tools. The advantage is so these are the advantages, and the disadvantages: it is only Mac friendly, and it lacks real time collaboration, like we can't collaborate with other designer without using the third party plugin. So there needs to everyone needs to install the third party plugins in order to collaborate with another designer. And we can also make use of Adobe XD. Adobe XD is a bit older, but uh, the designers who are already in the Adobe ecosystem, like they are already using other Adobe tools. They are using Adobe XD or After Effects, Photoshop, or any other Adobe tools. If they are already in that ecosystem, then they can make use of Adobe XD. The advantage is that it supports vector based, like there are different vectors are kind of the graphic tools, lines, circles, rectangles. So these are going to be the vectors. So it supports vectors, and then it supports the prototyping and voice triggers. It gives a smooth performance, but it requires Adobe subscription, like it is paid. And there is Miro. Miro is a remote collaboration, and it is best when it comes to wireframing or doing the user flow or design sprints. The advantage is that there is an infinite canvas, like the canvas is really big, and it also can be done by the real time teamwork, like the other team members can join in and collaborate, so that it will be great for brainstorming and coming up with different solutions and user flows. But the disadvantage is that it is less specialized for UI work. We can't do the UI in Miro. It is just for wireframing or for the initial brainstorming. Like we can just create the user flow information architecture. I'll just show one example of what I did in Miro recently. Like today I just worked on Miro. Uh, so Jonathan had shared his IA with me to review it, so that I created added some more features like what he can incorporate in the IA. First comes the home page, and then there are different segments involved. Like there is a station management, issue management, field services, knowledge center, reports and analytics, administration. So these are the different areas where the user can navigate from home page. It could either be in the bottom navigation bar, or few of the things can be there present in the bottom navigation, and few can be hidden somewhere in the icon in the home page itself. From the station management, the the user can have these options to navigate to. So this is done using Miro. You can just go to miro.com and then create your own file. In that, click on sticky note, choose one sticky note and then paste it over here, and then write, and it will be easy for you to connect from one node to another node. So here you can have the different roles based on the problem statement that you are having. So based on that, you can also create what are the things that will be coming under each of the issue. So these will be helpful when it comes to digital wireframing. Let's also discuss what are the best practices of creating wireframes. So we can start with the user goals for each section. Why is user goal important for each section? So how can we come up with what are the things that is required in each of the screen? So home page la idella irukka podhu appadina, how do we know that what is going to be present in each of the screen? First we need to understand the user goals, and the first panna initial stages in research. Come back to that process again. Each screen la vandu what is the user's requirement, how can we support the users in achieving that task, user flow ku anga what is the user trying to do here அப்படிங்கிறத think upon. In each of the screens you need to think upon that. For example, when it comes to a login screen, the goal is to access. So user needs to access in order to log in. So we need not have the distractions like giving them the offers over there or tips. Instead we just need to focus on the login. So அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு screen-க்கும் what is the purpose for the user to be in that screen. And then we need to use the standard UI patterns when appropriate. Like familiar patterns will be easy for the user to understand what happens in each of the screens, and it could also improve their usability. So if the user is not familiar with certain things, then it might require more cognitive effort by the user to understand that screen itself. So as a result, what happens? The user will be frustrated and it will be complex for them to use the app, and then the user friendly design it won't be. So it will be hard for the user to digest the information or how the process has to be done itself. So we did not reinvent the same scroll bars, buttons, or navigation bars unless necessary. So, example, a shopping cart icon in the top right is universally understood. We can use it. So, whatever is really required and really user friendly, like e-commerce-நாலே வந்து top right-ல தான் shopping cart இருக்கும். Then we know that shopping cart will usually be placed in the top right. So, we need not change the placement of the icons. Okay. So based on the user's mental model, like what element where they expect it to be, based on that itself we can proceed with the UI design. And we also need to consider the content hierarchy. Why is the content hierarchy, like what information needs to come first and then what information needs to come after that? Why is it important? Because it helps the users to find and understand the information quickly, and they can also make use of the visual cues like the size, placement. Based on the placement and the color that we are using, it helps the users to understand whether it is important function to make or it is a optional function that they can make. So we can also show the importance through the UI. Headlines should be prominent, secondary text should be smaller so that the user will understand the headline is important and the secondary text is just for us to give some more information or context about that particular topic. And we need to focus on the user flow, not just the isolated screens. Why is it important? Because the users need to interact across multiple screens. The user can interact with one screen and then jump to next screen. Once we are done with the user flow, we will have an idea of what screen comes next, and then it will give a continuous flow without giving a break, like it won't be a halt for the users. And we also need to map out how the users will move from one screen to another before we begin with the wireframe. So the students who have not worked on the user flow should not begin the wireframe now. So just work on the user flow information architecture. Be like, if you are not yet done, then get a review from me or the other students in your in this meeting itself. Okay. So first we need to design how a user registers, logs in, and then reaches the dashboard smoothly. So with this, we'll end the session here. We'll continue with the wireframing topic itself for the next session as well. I don't want to hurry it up and then uh, lose the focus. So just be thorough with the concepts that we are covering every day, and also prepare for your case study. So just focus on the information architecture and the user flows, and if you have any doubts you can ask me regarding what we have discussed in the previous classes regarding the information architectures and the user flow that you are currently working on. Any doubts on the same? Okay, then thank you. See you tomorrow.